Yeah, good afternoon. A very, very warm welcome. Great to have you here. Before we start our session, before we introduce our panelists, hello to Bangladesh. I would like to ask you some questions. So you know, the title of our session today is Tech, Consumption and Sustainability. It is about something which is not less than a paradigm shift. So when we buy our clothes, when we go to the supermarket, when we buy things, that we have the possibility now not only to have a focus on the price, what is the cheapest product, but we can take care. How was it produced? Were there good and fair labor standards? Was it environmentally sustainable, the production? Our session today is about that, about what's going on the policy level, and what role new innovative technologies can play. Before I introduce our panelists today, a quick question to you. Who would say, you can raise your arms, who of you would say you care about sustainable production? Is it something that matters to you, to buy fair product, organic food, etc.? If so, I would say most of you. And then of course, thank you. And then of course we have that question of conscience. So let's have a look at your shirt. So maybe your shirt was produced in Bangladesh, where Kalpona is joining us from today. So maybe your shirt was produced in Bangladesh or Vietnam. Imagine you bought it at H&M or Zara, maybe for 12 euro. Who of you would be willing to pay the double? Let's say 25 euro, when you know, okay, the production has really been fair and environmental standards has been respected. Who would be willing to pay the double? Thank you. And also for those who didn't raise their hands, thank you for being so honest. Who of you would say, I would still buy the t-shirt if the fair price for it is 70 euro? None. Again, thanks a lot. That will be one of our questions today. What is the fair price for a product? What is the fair price for sustainable production and consumption? I'm very, very pleased to introduce our panelists today. First, we have here on the screen Kalpona Akhtar from Bangladesh. Kalpona, great to have you with us today. Kalpona is a labor activist from Bangladesh. She has been a worker in textile and production at the age of 12, and now she is a founder of the Bangladesh Center for Worker Solidarity, and she works a lot about workers' rights and about good labor conditions in the textile industry in Bangladesh. We also have here Susanne. Susanne is founder of the company For the Record and is a technology expert who knows a lot about digital product passports. Maybe not all of you have heard that before, but you will learn more about that during our session. And also a very warm welcome to Jochen. Jochen Gahlenkirchen is a representative of the Bundeszentrale, Verbraucherschutzbundeszentrale, the federal organization for consumer organizations here in Germany. He is an expert on sustainable consumption. So let's get started. Kalpona, would you be so kind to tell us more about the labor conditions in Bangladesh? When we talk about fair production, what does it mean? What are key problems that you see?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me today here. And I'm really happy that those has been raised their hand with the first question that Max had, that you still wanted to be, there to help people. So when we talk about fair production and working condition in Bangladesh, I think it doesn't match. It would be great to know from you all that what do you understand about the fair production. So let's talk about the working condition in here. Our workers are working long shifting hours to produce the clothes that we are sending to your part of the world. And that they're doing with very low wages, or kind of, we can say, poverty wages. $114 is our minimum wage for workers, and that just approved in January this year, and yet to implement this in every factory. And to get these wages, the workers really had to fight their battle. 4 workers killed in police shot. Hundreds of them got injured. Thousands of workers are facing criminal charges. Those are named and unnamed. So fear are there. But when we have all these, problems, we have some good news as well, or better news to share. That safety-wise, we have improved a lot. You may heard of Rana Plaza, which is, many cases we kind of take as a milestone that from Rana Plaza to now, uh, because of the Accord on Bangladesh Fire and Building Safety, or which is international accord now, has made a phenomenal work here in the ground, and that made a difference for workers. So when we had to experience that number is not there. Like in 2016, the number was literally zero. But we yet to work on it. So it's a very great improvement. But we are still lag behind on freedom of association, where country was able to increase the number of union, but totally failed to create a healthy union environment for workers. So those are difficulties that we are being fighting with. And as you know, the green energy, just transition, all these are there, but a worker doesn't have any clue, because all the discussion that having with the brands or the global north governments, that doesn't include workers' voices. So we are kind of left out. All this new technology kind of inventing here, or started working in here, our workers are not connected with all those. So there is a huge disconnection on the just transition or green energy and worker rights in here. So, we are yet to get a lot of improvement, and that improvement needs to be done area of wages, freedom of association, safety, social protection, and of course, women-friendly workplaces, because the much majority of this industry are women workers. So, my organization and me, since being a worker till now, if I'm fighting for a job with dignity, and without a living wage, and without a freedom of association, social protection, and safe workplace, we will be not getting a dignified job. So it's a long way to go.
Thank you, Kalpona, for sharing this with us. What would you say when we as consumers, so maybe you could see it, when we ask who cares about sustainable consumption, most of us were raising the hands. What would you say? What is the responsibility of consumers in the global north? What could we do to improve working conditions, labor conditions in places like Bangladesh?
Yeah, thank you for this great question. I mean, every consumers, when they heard about the working condition, the real working condition that worker being facing in here, they're always in a dilemma that should I buy or I shouldn't buy? My very clear answer to all of you that please do buy. We need these jobs, but we want them with dignity. And in order to getting that dignity, definitely consumer can play a very, very big role, a very vital role. Next time you are in the store, go behind the level. You can go beyond the price, color, uh, style, and all these. You can start asking more questions to the store manager, that you wanted to know more about this worker who made clothes for you, in what condition, how they are being treating. I think that will be ringing the bell. And I am very supportive to the sustainable clothes. I know that my country produce fast fashion, and there is a saying that if fast fashion stops, then the millions of workers will be losing their job. But I wanted to go beyond the debate. The workers, those are making the fast fashion, they're also getting a poverty wages. So if there is a four in the family, many cases, 4 of them working or 3 of them working for their living now, because this poverty wages is not enough for one person working. But just think about the world that you are buying a sustainable clothes and you're paying what you said that you will be paying almost double. And if that converts as a living wage and coming to the down to the supply chain, like country like us, and converted as a living wage to the workers, then a worker will get 4 times or 5 times than wages they're getting now. So due to these sustainable clothes, even half of the workers lose their job, but it's still 2 from the family will get the job in the factory, and their income will be enough for the other 2, like 4 of their living, and 4 among 4, 2 at least can find another job or upskill them, or they can go to school. So sustainable clothes, I would say yes for it, but first the consumers, they need to stand up for the workers. They need to speak out. Without their voice, we cannot win the case that we are fighting for our dignity.
Thank you so much, Kalpona, for reminding us that every jeans that we are wearing and all the shoes that we have and t-shirts, it's human beings at the other part of the planet who are producing them. We will come back to that later. Kalpona, I think you made a very nice transition to labels, because how do we make our decision to labels? We see, okay, that fruit was produced organically, that product has been traded fairly. Jochen, what would you say? Those labels, are they enough? Can they give us as consumers enough orientation?
Unfortunately, I think I have to say the answer to that question is no, and I want to elaborate a little bit on that. I think that 2 main reasons why sustainability labels are not enough, or in many cases not even that helpful to consumers. The first very big reason is, I think, that there are no or very low standards for many of those labels. So as a consumer, you are presented with a vast number of different labels and claims claiming that a product is green or produced sustainably. But even I don't know if every of those labels is really founded, or if there's something really behind that. And well, me personally, I work in a consumer protection organization, so I work with all that, and I can't decide that all the time. Most people are not consumers full time, but have many other things as well they have to care about, and that's, I think, one very big problem, that greenwashing is a very big problem in this area, and many companies just use sustainability labels or sustainability claims to look better or greener, more sustainably, but there's not much behind that. So as a consumer, there's nearly no possibility to know which label actually means that someone got paid a decent pay, or which label is just greenwashing, in fact. That's one reason. And the other reason why sustainability labels are not enough, I think, is because consumers generally don't act they act very individually and not collectively. And it's, I think, to try and put the responsibility for sustainable production only or in a majority on consumers, which is happening if you focus on sustainability labels, won't actually get you to the right point, because there will always be a lot of consumers that have to think about other reasons to buy something, like prices, for example, and not everyone can actually, even in the global north, not everyone can actually pay a high price for every consumption product they want to consume. I think, that leads me to the point: sustainability labels are not the main solution here, I think, but it needs regulation to make sure that production is actually sustainable, and afterwards, in a second step, if production is sustainable, also consumption can be sustainably.
Maybe a quick question to all of you. I mean, all of us, we know that kind of labels. Please raise your hand when you say you trust labels, or you have really one label or several labels that guide you for your consumption when you go to the supermarket or to a store. Who trusts that labels which marks organic, fair? Okay, that's a bit, but not a lot. You spoke about regulation, so it's our session today is very timely at the European Union. Since Friday, we have a new Sustainable Supply Chain Act. Give us a bit an orientation for us as laypersons. What's going on in terms of policy of regulation? What's going on in Germany and in Europe?
There are actually, I would say, 3 very important regulation projects that are going on in the moment, or that have just been finished. There are a lot more on European level, but I want to focus on those 3, because I think they have the most impact for consumers. The first being the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive you just mentioned, or in short, the Supply Chain Act, which is the European version of the German Lieferkettengesetz, or the German Supply Chain Act, which is in place, has been in place since 2 years now, or 1.5 years. And the CSDD, or the European Supply Chain Act, aims at making sure that companies actually have to, or aims at making due diligence mandatory in supply chains. So I think that's a very important step and very big shift in production that can be achieved through this regulation, because it makes due diligence a standard in supply chains, which is not equivalent to making sustainability the standard, but it's a very big step in the right direction, I think. So that's the first project that just got finished. The second one that was also finished in the beginning of this year is the regulation empowering consumers for the green transition, which also aims at stopping greenwashing and making sure that sustainability labels are more trustworthy. One big step has been the third-party certification in the Empowering Consumers Directive, which makes sure that the organization that certifies a product actually has to be, well, a third party. It's not the same actor or the same player that produces and sells the product. I think that's a very big step against greenwashing as well, because a lot of the labels we have on the market at the moment are not third-party verified, but are self-certification, which means that a producer just certifies themselves and just says that they respected certain standards in the supply chain, and they are also the ones that overview those standards. But of course, there's a big gap in that, and a big risk for greenwashing in that. And the third one I would just want to mention very shortly is the Green Claims Directive, which is in the political process at the moment, and this one will also aim at stopping greenwashing, but making sure that claims have to be verified. So also that helps consumers a lot to trust more in green claims, sustainability claims, and also labels, because the company that uses the claim actually has to prove that there's something behind the claim and that it's actually true.
So again, a question to all of you. In general, just that you know there will be enough room for questions, for commentaries from your side, so we will have some space to interact. There will be a microphone later, so if you have burning questions in your mind, there will be room to bring them here to the floor. Speaking about Lieferkettengesetz, often people say that's a bureaucratic monster, it won't work. For firms, it's simply not possible. What's your stance on that?
I think it's not, in short. And I think there are also a lot of companies, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of companies that see it the same way. Actually, a recent survey that just showed that only 7% of European companies are really against the Supply Chain Act. On the other hand, this minority of companies is very loud at the moment. We have a very large backlash from businesses, from few companies, few business associations against the Supply Chain Act that frame it to be a bureaucratic monster. But in fact, there are a lot of companies in Germany and in Europe that actually support the regulation because it creates a level playing field for them. That's I think a very important aspect of that for companies, because a lot of companies want to produce more sustainably, but on the other hand, if they do, they risk having a competitive disadvantage against other companies that don't produce sustainably, and their products get more expensive, and so there's a disadvantage. And you don't follow your ambitions as much as you would if every company had to respect certain supply chain standards as it was achieved by the regulation now. So for this reason, I think it's not a bureaucratic monster. And second point, what would be the alternative? We had the alternative for a very, very long time, was making due diligence not mandatory, and leave it to companies if they want to produce sustainably or not. A lot of, actually all UN member states had national action plans for business and human rights to make sure that due diligence was respected in supply chains. In the end, after 20 years, in Germany, only 15 to 18% actually respected those standards voluntarily. So I think that shows that the trying to make due diligence, not mandatory, has failed, in fact.
So again, a question to all of you. Please raise your hands. Who of you think, okay, it's really important to have more stricter, sharper standards and regulation for firms, for producers and companies? And wow, that's a lot. And who of you thinks, so Jochen described those 3 initiatives. I believe that not many of us are experts for European law or for consumer policy, but who of you thinks what's going on is good? What's going on is brings us a step forward? That's also maybe half of the audience. Thank you. What do you think? Is it enough, the 3 initiatives?
It's a big step in the right direction, I think. I think you can always do more, of course, and the European Supply Chain Act has certain loopholes still, like it's at least in the start, it's only large companies have to respect the directive, which is a big loophole, I think. You could have stronger stances on climate responsibility within the law, but I don't want. Well, all in all, it's a very big step and a very big paradigm shift, I think. And I think in the coming years, I hope at least, we'll go down that road way more, and so it's good to make a good start at the moment, I think.
Thank you, Jochen. Let's add a third dimension. So we were speaking about consumption, about sustainability. Let's bring tech to the picture. Susanne, what role can technology play to make consumption more sustainable? And maybe in particular, probably many of us haven't heard of the digital product passport. What is it? Please tell us more.
Thank you, Max. I think that the bureaucratic monster that was mentioned before is only a bureaucratic monster because digital technologies are not being used very often today, that you have analog letters that are being sent from one company to the next. If you're lucky, you have a PDF file, but that's also not verifiable, so anyone can maybe produce a PDF file that shows a certification of something, so it's maybe not trustworthy. So I believe that if we're using the technology that we have available today for showing the compliance of these new regulations, we wouldn't talk about a bureaucratic monster anymore. And one important instrument to make that happen is the digital product passport. It has been defined as for the first time in the new battery regulation, and it will change the way how we will interact with products, how we will look at the product, how we will maybe find our preference, set our preferences if we want to buy it or not buy it. For example, if child labor or worker safety or environmental indicators are important for us, then we can see kind of within a minute or maybe even within 2 seconds if you want to buy the product or not. Because on every product there will be a digital product passport. It comes with a data carrier. On some products it will be a QR code that you can scan in today and get to the information that you want to see. In other products where you cannot put a QR code, there will be an NFC chip or comparable RFID chip, for example, where you then reach the product information that is relevant for you to make an informed customer decision. Yeah, so that's what the digital product passport is. It comes in for batteries in 2027, and for a lot of other products which are regulated under the Eco Design for Sustainable Products regulation, also a European directive that has been ratified. Other products will be coming as well with the digital product passport, such as textiles, mattresses, ceramics, cosmetics, detergents, fishing nets even, furniture, lubricants, paints, toys, tires, and as end producer products, which is a priority list, but then even intermediary products such as chemicals, iron and steel, and other intermediary products. So it will be very changing our way how to interact with the product, and it will give us, and that's the reason why the European Commission has worked on it, give us transparency about the things that we discuss. We give us transparency about where does the material come from, how has it been produced, how has textiles been produced, and give us more transparency there. And it will change also the way that businesses talk to each other. So the way how one company is providing data to the next company in the supply chain will tremendously change. And also with this, the overview also from regulators such as the European Commission, they will have more transparency about the supply chain, where the material comes from, and also gives a hint, where do we get our material from, and do we get it from there also tomorrow when the political situation changes. So there's a lot of things that the digital product passport can do, and it's defined in a lot of different activities at the moment. The technical system is defined on European level on the JTC 24, which I'm a member of. And then for each product segments, there will be separate delegated acts that say, how does a product passport needs to look like for textiles? How does it look like for mattresses or steel? And that's currently undergoing. Not many people maybe are aware of that activity, but it will be paradigm changing way of how we interact with products and how we know information about products.
Yeah, Susanne brought a QR code. Please feel free to try it. It works, huh?
Yeah.
You can try it.
So what you see there is kind of the world's first decentralized battery passport. When you scan it in, you see human readable battery passport of an anonymous battery. But what's very important, and what I've been discussing people at Republica 24 a lot, is how do I deal with fake news. So the product passport that you see here is signed with a digital signature of the economic operator that brought this battery to the market, and so you can also verify that signature directly with your phone without even installing additional technology. So in IT speak, what you can do is you find a verifiable credential of that product passport, and you can verify that information and trust that information, which is, I believe, also very, very important building block of digital product passports, that the information we find there is trustworthy.
Again, a question to all of you: who has heard of the digital product passport before that session today? Okay, that's also maybe half of the audience. I didn't know it before, and but honestly, it's kind of abstract: consumer policy and regulation, digital product passports. Do you believe one day that you go to buy really something? Will you put out your smartphone? Will you check it? Can we do that as consumers, or who is the main target group? Is it firms? How will it look like in practice?
Yeah. So my vision of it is that, yes, you take off your phone, you scan in the QR code, but you indeed have a customer-facing app that can allows you for fast decision making. You scan it, you have all your preferences set in there, and it gives you a red or a green, mark to say, yeah, I can put it into my Einkaufswagen. I don't know what the English word is. So yes, I think that you can make decisions faster because no one has the time to read through all of what you find there. Yeah, you have to make something for fast decision making. So that's what I believe, especially customer facing, will change the way how we deal with products.
And how trustworthy is it? I mean, when we have a company that really cheats and they pollute the environment and they use really bad labor conditions, how easy can they get a good product passport? Or
so at the same time, when we're building the technical infrastructure for and defining, standardizing the technical system of digital product passport, at the same time, other activities are happening on European level where those this governance is also being defined. So saying which standards actually have products to comply to, who's defining those standards, who can audit after those standards, which companies maybe certify and do this audit process in the right way. So there's also a governance and a trust infrastructure built up at the same time. Who defines, what level of security do we need? Who defines which source is reliable and which is not? Which auditors is trustworthy and which not? And that's kind of defined in parallel at the moment for batteries, also as a delegated act. And for other products, this will also follow.
So Susanne gave us a picture already of the future, and as she said, batteries, it's kind of, for those of you who have an electric vehicle, you already have it, but many of us who don't. But as Susanne has said, in many sectors it will come, in textiles, etc. Again, a question to you: who would like to use it? Would you like to be able to screen a digital product passport, or would you think, okay, in my daily life I simply don't have the time, I can't do that when I buy things? So who would be interested to trace more of where the products come from? That's a big majority. Thank you. There will be room for questions and answers, for comments from your side. You can go to the microphone there. Before we open the floor, one last question to you, Susanne, is, now we are bringing up that big technological architecture, which sounds really sophisticated. To me, it sounds really good. I'm very much interested to hear your perspective on that, Kalpuna. But what do you think, Susanne, when we introduce it, will that be not a huge barrier to entry? Germany or the European Union, it's an important market to many countries. Is it simply might it be that producers in Bangladesh don't know how to use that technology and that they can't export to Europe anymore?
Thank you for that very important question. So there are a lot of people in the working groups on the European level who are currently defining it, and a lot of people, including myself, are taking care of that the technology that you use for digital product passport has as low entry barrier as possible. That means all we define there is based on open standards, where maybe already open source technology is available, and that the system as such is permissionless to participate. What do I mean with permissionless? Permissionless, which are also basically the 3 success factors of the internet itself. So if you can, as a person, publish your own web page with almost no money, yeah, that's how my vision looks like for producers and supply chain actors to provide digital information about their product. This is how easy and how cheap it must be to provide that information. And for companies in, Bangladesh, for example, or other countries where you have very, very small supply chain actors, yeah, maybe just 3 to 5 people, of course, they don't have an IT system or an IT service or a manager who looks after this. And for those companies, already today, services are established that provide those services for them, so that providing product information for them only looks as if they put information into a form, but it has also, some restrictions, it has to be verifiable, and so forth. And that's the way how I envision also smaller companies can very easily participate at the system of providing that information.
Thank you, Susanne. I would like to ask you the same question, Kalpona, but before let's open the floor. There was a point there. Please feel free to come to the microphone.
Hi. Okay, I can hear myself also. My name is Felipe Schmidt-Fonseca. I've been studying reuse and repair in communities in cities. And I think it's, digital product passports, unfortunately, I only found about them after I finished writing my thesis. But I'm curious to know about plans, not only to think in product passports in terms of consumption, but also repair, reuse, upcycling, and to add user-contributed data, not only data coming from manufacturers, but also that people can suggest other users and other ways to repair, reuse, and reassemble or upcycle materials.
Yes, I take this question. Thank you for this very important point as well. The time is too short to mention everything that the digital product passport should do. But of course, it is in the vision of the European Commission to do exactly that, to support all our strategies, and that recyclers, repairers, reusers get more information out of the digital product passport than they have today to actually make a business out of recycling and reusing, because today very often you don't know what's in a battery. Opening up and dismantling it is time consuming. So very often it doesn't make a business model to do it. But if you scan in something and you immediately know that's the material that's in the in this product, and this is how I dismantle it, then you can make a calculation if it's worth it or not. And therewith we will also find, hopefully, or I'm very convinced that we will do new business models, new businesses, new ways of reusing things much better than we do today. And I really see here a chance for Europe, especially because we are very strong in moving the product passport forward. I see a strong chance for Europe to build new businesses, new intelligence, new services, new products out of this additional information that comes from the product passport for a more sustainable world.
Great point. Thanks a lot. Kalpona, what do you think when you hear about that digital product passports, which will rather soon come for textiles? How does it sound to you? What is your opinion on that?
It sounds very interesting to me, but in the same time, I have a question for Susan as well. Does it say anything about working condition?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
So I
absolutely.
just wanted to know more about that, basically.
Yeah. So thank you for mentioning that in particular, especially the product passport for each product segment will look differently. It has different requirements, and this is why we have different delegated acts for each different product segment. In the battery case, for example, the working conditions and the child labor conditions and also wastewater conditions, by the way, make a very big impact on the production of a battery. And therefore, you can see all the different SDG indicators. You find them in the digital product passport. And for products that have maybe more child labor issues or wastewater issues, you find different indicators with more emphasis in the one product segment than in the other. But yes, all SDG goals are actually looked at, and at the moment the requirements for different product segments are being defined, and we will see them as requirements in the upcoming delegated acts.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is really helpful.
Are there more questions from your side? Yeah, please feel free to come to the microphone. In the meantime, while you go there, Jochen, what do you think? Will it be helpful to consumers, the digital product passport?
I think, well, actually, I want to focus on two other aspects of the digital product passport first, because I think, well, it can be an instrument for business to consumer communication, but I think it can also be a very important instrument, and I think this aspect is even more important for consumers, for business to business communication, because technology can, as Susanne said before, can help a lot to make to reduce the bureaucracy level in supply chain regulations, and this aspect of the product passport is, I think, very important for consumers as well, because transparency only is, in my opinion, not the real solution, at least for consumers, because it still leaves the decision to be made with consumers, and in many cases that's a very a decision that's nearly impossible to make, because you might have a product that respects working conditions, but that's very bad for the environment or the climate, for example. And then the consumer still has to make the decision between what is more important? Is it climate and environmental protection, or is it human rights and social due diligence in supply chains? And this decision, the digital product passport can help to make this more transparent, but it can't take a decision for consumers. They still have to take this decision themselves, and I think that's a decision that can't be left to consumers, but that has to be addressed by regulation. And well, like I said, the product passport can contribute to help legislation and to make it less bureaucratic, in fact.
Thank you. Probably you have your perspective on that as well, Susanne. But first, please go ahead.
Yes, hi. My name is Ugo Vallauri from the European Right to Repair campaign and Restart project. And about the digital product passport, from the side of the push to make products more repairable, our understanding brings a bit more skepticism, because it doesn't make any official requirement for provision of more up-to-date information. For example, it doesn't mandate that a repair manual, for example, would have to be shared, but it provides a framework in case the company wanted to share it to make it available. So unless other legislation, for which for some product categories there are, but the vast majority of product categories in Europe aren't covered by repairability legislation. So you wouldn't be in a better place just because the digital product passport exists. So I just wonder, what about some of the other aspects aside from repairability, from your standpoint at least? Thank you.
So I'm not sure what exactly the question was, but I want to say that at the beginning, the European Commission only wanted to have kind of the mandatory data to be added to the product passport. At the moment, it is fine for them if additional information comes in, so that you can actually inform the customer more, or have more information available that maybe allows the customer to make confirmed an informed decision on or informed choice. But I don't know if that answers your question.
No, what I'm trying to ask is, what do you think of the fact that the passport doesn't make it obligatory to provide a certain information? It provides a digital tool to make it easier to be found and shared.
No.
But if it doesn't force a manufacturer to make some information actually available, then it's just a voluntary tool.
Okay, but my information is a different one here. There's definitely mandatory information that you have to provide in the digital product passport. Otherwise, you cannot put your product on the market anymore. So my information is simply different there, and it's also still currently defined. So for batteries, it's pretty clear, and several working groups of different organizations have agreed on between 90 and 110 attributes that meet the requirements for batteries. And if you don't have the information available or in not good enough quality, then you cannot put your product on the European market. And the requirements for other products are still to be defined. So I'm expecting that information about how to repair a product is definitely a mandatory ingredient of the product passport. So I have a different information there.
Thank you, Hugo, for bringing that point with circular economy and right to repair here to the floor. That's a very, very good point. I have a look. Are there any questions or any comments? If not, a question to you, because Jochen mentioned a question which is almost philosophical. Consumers, free choice or regulation? I mean, is it okay when that consumers really have the choice? I mean, we have the cost of living crisis. A lot of families simply don't have much money in the wallet. What do you say? Is it okay to buy products? It sounds like a tricky question, but it is not. Is it okay to buy products that are not really fairly produced, that contribute to environmental degradation? Should it be really to the choice left to the consumer? Who would say yes? So one hand, and I think that's interesting also because we have that philosophical debate not only here but much more strongly in the US, right, where it's very, very politicized, the question of ESG standards. You're an industry insider. What do you observe? Because we have that new regulation, new approaches coming from the EU. We have challenges coming up for developing countries who really have to cope with those new standards, both in terms of regulation and also in terms of technology. But what do you observe? What are the responses from markets or producers like the US? What are voices that you hear?
Maybe I first want to go to the producing countries, producing of raw materials especially. So I believe that the product passport and the requirements, also due diligence requirements or other supply chain requirements that we have coming up, is actually a chance also for those countries to show their investment in improving maybe the production circumstances and environments. So I believe that there is also a chance to show that production is they have at least a chance to show that production can be comparable to maybe to other countries. So I believe it's also a chance for the US. For batteries, that's not so super important, I think. So maybe I give, because I think Joachim has another comment.
Yeah, I wanted to I wanted to add something to that as well, because you're of course right that sustainable products might in some cases be more expensive at the moment, and it's actually something. Well, that's a comment that we are presented with a lot as a consumer rights organization. It might seem strange that we advocate for more sustainable products because people often think your main goal as a consumer rights organization should be that products are as cheap as possible for consumers. Different reasons. There are different reasons why we have a little different stance on that. One being, as we just saw in the room here, that's something that we see in surveys we do a lot, that a vast number of consumers are very concerned about the effects of their consumption, and a lot of them want to consume, actually most of them, around 90 or more than 90% want to consume more sustainably, but are not able to in the moment. So we see that many people, and we also see that many people would be prepared to even pay a little bit more for sustainable products. But on the second hand, I think a point or a second point you have to take into account here is that our current economic and consumption model is something that won't work in a few years anymore if we keep producing like we're producing at the moment. And if you think about future consumers, I think it's very important to start changing the system now and right now at the moment, and not wait until it's too late or until we're forced to change the system, because otherwise consumers in 20 or 30 years won't be able to consume anything anymore, because everything will be much too expensive for that. So especially this future perspective, I think is very important for consumers as well.
Thanks, Jochen. I think a fascinating aspect in that debate is that we have those two streams currently going on, right? We have a lot of people who are really concerned about sustainability. I mean, it's a no-brainer today that we have a climate crisis. There are very few people who really doubt it. So, I mean, almost everyone, as Jochen said it, is concerned. Is a concern about the future generation, about what's awaiting for us in the future. At the same time, so we have problems like that. We have the cost of living crisis. We have families who really have problems with money that didn't had the problems 3 years ago. And against that backdrop, I believe it's very important, Kalpuna's point, if we here in the north pay a little more, it can already double or triple the income of workers in the south. Yeah, please.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add a little point. I think it's very dangerous to try and put consumers in the north against workers in the south. Because if you say we have a cost of living crisis in the north, we have to produce, so our products have to be produced cheaper. You create, you put the north against the south. I think the solution can't be that we have to keep on producing as we're at the moment, as we are at the moment. But I think the solution to the cost of living crisis has to be social policy, and not social policy in the north as well, but not to just keep on doing as we have been doing for the last 50 years.
Thank you. Last opportunity. Who has a point? Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Noah Bilski. I'm working for the German Environmental Ministry, and we're having at the moment a discussion on consumer information. And while you were talking about the digital product pass, I was just asking myself, if we have the digital product pass for maybe, like, for example, a T-shirt, and we have this bunch of information on, like, human rights, on environmental policy, whatever, and then how can we present those informations to consumers so that they also understand those informations? Because if you just have, like, a bunch of information, maybe like 1 or 2 pages, no one will read it. And those people who will read it, they already are interested in sustainability. So how can we reach those people who don't want to read everything on sustainability? Do we need a score on human rights? Do we need something else? I'm just thinking of this food score. Do we need something like this? Do we need a traffic light? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so what I believe is that we need something for fast decision making, because 90% of the people don't spend 10 minutes to find out, everything about the product. And then we have already these instruments from A, B, C, D, E, F, G kind of score. And I believe that it's a good idea to maybe for fast decision making. At the same time, I want to repeat what I said before. I think that we also need maybe something that's funded from your institution. We also need maybe a consumer app that allows smart processing of the information from digital product passports, which allows us, which allows us to make a fast decision if I buy something, or not based on my preferences, based on my price scale or the like. So that's what I think, because you're standing in the supermarket and you want to buy a thing, you want to do it fast. You maybe only have 20 minutes or so. So I think we have to support the consumer here. And why don't you create a funded project that builds such a consumer app that works with all digital product passports, because the digital product passport system for all different product categories will be the same. That's what's currently being defined in the JTC 24 on the European level.
Great. Thanks for your input and thanks for the answer.
Yeah, great point. Sounds like an exciting project. You develop that app, you will fund it, and all of us will use it. Sounds really good. Jochen, you have a point on that? No? Okay. Good. So we come to our end. Let's have an outlook. What is, Kalpona, what is your wish? What would you wish when we meet again at Republica next year or in 2 years? What should change? What is your personal hope for the near future?
First of all, great to be part of this amazing panel. And a year or 2 years from now, I will, what I wanted to see that the consumer are more responsible. And I'm not putting consumer versus worker thing, but I'm just saying that they will be more responsible to questioning the companies more to pay the workers as a living wage. So 2 years from now, I really wanted to see the workers in the production country and whole supply chain workers are getting living wage.
Thank you very much, Kalpona. Jochen, what is your personal take? What is your outlook? What should we be discussing in 2 years or 3 years at Republica?
Well, I very much hope that we're still discussing the issue of due diligence in supply chains on the one hand, and also that we're maybe finished discussing the area of greenwashing, because I hope that at least the Green Claims Directive will be in place at that point, and hopefully, not too sure about that, but hopefully have ended greenwashing at that point. But I'm pretty sure that we have a lot to keep on discussing on supply chain due diligence, and I really hope that even after the next European elections we can keep discussing that, and that the political majorities stay somehow in a place where we can keep discussing this very important aspect.
Thank you, Jochen. Susanne.
Yeah, so in 2 years, exactly in 2 years actually, we will have the final standards for the digital product passport. So they have to be developed by the end of 2025, December 2025. And then there might be a period of 16 weeks where this all is ratified. And so exactly at this point in time, in 2 years, we have ready-to-use standards. So then I hope I will see a lot of companies that implement the digital product passport already for their products. And I'm looking forward to scan the first ones who are not pointing to imaginary product, but to real products with real certification on, consumer friendliness and on worker safety, child labor safety, and so forth.
Yeah, great. So a very warm thank you to all of you for that very interactive debate, to share your opinions with us. And of course, a thank you to the three of us. I think often those topics are abstract, very political, very technological. And I think all of you helped us to break it really down, because in the end, we are the consumers. We are, as one person has very nice expresses, we are agents of change. With every decision we make in the internet, online shopping, in the supermarket, we can contribute to make our world a little bit better. Thanks a lot, Kalpona. Have a great evening in Bangladesh. Susanne, Jochen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Max, for the moderation.
Yeah.